Up, people are coming in. The participants are entering the room. Oh, we already have 53. Yay. And we've got such a great webinar scheduled for y'all today. I'm very, very excited. And I have to be careful because I get so excited that I sometimes forget that it's not my turn to talk. So, and okay, I'm going to get an idea how many people are in the room.
Thank you all for joining us. It's always good to see you. Let me make sure that I have the chat enabled.
And when each one of you just say hello, that's all. Just let's go down the row here, starting with Sonia, and say, hello, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Hello, Rose Daniels here.
Hi.
Hi, this is Fallon Nonamaker.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Great. And I ask anybody who'd like to introduce themselves in the chat, tell us where you're from. And the number's still starting to slow down.
Yeah.
Do you think we're about ready, Jamal, to start?
I do.
Okay. Over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate you. So welcome, everyone. We are the PA Care Partnership in association with the Office of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, also known as OMSOS. Welcome to our virtual speaker series. This year, we are exploring the theme, where do we go from here? And we start this journey as we look back and anticipate what comes next. So today's webinar is Healthy Transitions, preparing for instant adulthood at 18 years of age. And today's moderators are myself, Jamal Ford, and Nancy Massey from the partnership. And with that, I will turn it over to Nancy.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I wanted to take a second and say that it's been about 6 years that I've been working on this PA Care Partnership Grant. And I have to say, I have been in too many meetings where it is discussed that we need more youth and young adults involved. Today, we have a panel of 7 speakers, an amazing group of youth and young adults in Luzerne, from Luzerne, Wyoming County, who got together and applied for a Healthy Transitions Grant, and they won it. Even though I haven't known them for long, I am already proud to have met them and to be working with them on this webinar. And today we are going to be hearing about what they have done that had led them to applying for the grant, where they are today in their lives, and where they intend to go. And I want you all to be prepared to be impressed. There will be no PowerPoint or other formal presentation. This is a roundtable discussion. And I will first do a short poll to find out more about who is in the audience today. And then I will introduce each speaker, as I usually do. But this time, there'll be more of an interaction between the speakers and myself while introducing them. At which point, after everybody's been introduced and we've heard a little bit about them and what brought them here today, I will then turn the webinar over to Jamal, who will start the Q&A portion of this webinar. At any time, starting from this moment, if you have a question or a comment, please put it in the Q&A. Jamal is there watching over it and will be drawing questions from it. So everyone, listen to me again. This is your opportunity to talk to the youth and young adults who are here to talk to us about their work and look forward to continuing a conversation with the audience. It's your chance. You're saying we don't get enough time? Here we are. Let's take advantage of it. And again, please add your questions in the Q&A. and at any time during this webinar. Okay, now I'm going to do the poll. And first I have to remember, oh, there it is, polls. Okay, launch. Okay, so we want to find out a little bit about the people that are in the room and what they're doing. Thank you for answering. There, you get to select one in each one of these questions. Oh, shoot, I made a mistake on number 2. The first answer is yes, the second answer is no. Oh, darn. Number 3 is the same thing. It's a yes, no answer. Number 4 is yes, no, and number 5 is yes, no. I'm going to give everybody a minute or 2 to look through and to get an idea of, to see. Don't have many family members here. We do have a lot of providers, which is good, so that we'll make sure that how important the providers are to us and what else we might need. And we have a lot of people that work with youth and young adults. That's fantastic. We asked about whether you're from Luzerne in Wyoming for their grant. And then we're going to be talking a little bit about food insecurity at some points and homelessness. And I'm curious how many people could say that they have actually had that experience. I can tell you that I've dealt with food insecurity, and I can tell you that I've been pretty darn close to homelessness one too many times in my life. But when I was young, and I am proud to say I made it this long, and I'm pretty old, so it's a long time. So if I can do it, you all can do it too. Let's see. It looks like we've got. Just want to be able to. So we have mostly providers in the room. Do you all know what a provider is when I use that term? Anyone? Jamal, is anybody asking about that?
No.
I figured that was a pretty common enough. So we've got 11% are advocates. That's good. Could use better. I knew I wasn't going to get every area where people are involved. So that's why I have other. And then work with children is 1%. Joe, you write down these numbers of the answer for Luzerne or Wyoming County? Okay, I'm going to end the poll now. Jamal, did you notice anything in the chat that we should talk about before I move on to introducing our speakers?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Right. What I'm going to do, instead of moving directly across the table of our speakers, I'm going to move around a little bit. And Jamal, if I can't look at everything at the same time. If there's anything that I need to know, or you see something in the chat, just and let me know, and I'll stop.
ma'am.
Okay? The first speaker that I'm going to introduce today is Rose Daniels. Rose is a youth and young adult coordinator with Youth Revolution. And at some point, we're going to talk more about Youth Revolution. But in the meantime, you should all see the Youth Revolution logo on your screen. That's not really a person, it's just a logo. But we wanted you all to see the logo, so that's up on the screen too. So Rose, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everyone. I am a young adult here in Wilkes-Barre. I've been living out here since 2016, and I moved from New York. And when I was in New York, I experienced being in foster care from infancy until I was adopted at the age of 12. And I stayed in New York after I was adopted, and I began my healing journey through art and poetry. And it has inspired me to continue to help build the strength in other young folks who are going through difficult times and just traversing their traumas. And that is why I work with the Youth Drop-In Center at the Catholic Youth Center, where I get to really tap in with our young folks in the area and help them build their strength and find their voices. And yeah.
Yeah, I have a question, Rose. When you say that you work at the Catholic Youth Center, you say, is that is that just for people with mental health issues, or?
No, it's a community center, actually.
Oh,
and
great. Okay, thank you. Tell me as much as you want to about that or not.
The Youth Drop-In Center, which is in the Catholic Youth Center, is aged 14 to 18 is our focus group. And that's the group of youth we work with. And that started with the Systems of Care grant. So it was mental health based, but it's for everyone.
Thank you. Go ahead. Do you have more to tell us about yourself, Rose?
I think I'll stop there for now. I'm looking forward to the rest of this discussion.
Can I ask you like one question?
Absolutely.
I see that she is now the third vice president of the Wilkes-Barre chapter of the NAACP, where her outreach efforts to the BIPOC community are elevated. She works closely with the community to create and empower the next generation of youth leaders, advocates, and activists for human rights. That just fills me with pride. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got involved with that?
Absolutely. The former president, Jamel Khalist, came over to the Catholic Youth Center to basically engage with us and see how we can work together. And his enthusiasm for what the NAACP represents, and me growing up understanding how important the NAACP's work is for the Black community in our country, really elevated my interest in expanding on my community service through that organization. And once I joined in 2021, very shortly after, I moved up to the executive committee. And then within the next year, at the top of the next year, I was voted in as the third vice president because of how much I was working towards those goals with our team.
Thank you.
Now actually we have council, and John's a part of our youth council as well. He's our young president for the youth council. So we are bolstering young activists as well.
Oh, wow. John, is this your first, are you the first president?
Yes, I am. Ever since we started the youth council back up, I am the first president, and we are still trying to recruit more members so we can really get up and going.
Okay, if somebody out there, Joe or Bobby, can get into the chat and give us some contact information about how to contact John about getting involved, that would be great if we could do that. Thank you. Okay, let me move on to our next speaker. I'm going to introduce Kyle Dayton. who is a youth support partner. Kyle.
Hello, everybody. I started working at Children's Service Center as a peer support specialist before I moved on to working as a youth support partner for Wellness Court, which is basically Luzerne County's treatment court program for juveniles. Like any other peer specialist or certified peer, I have my own lived experience. I've received services at Children's Service Center, the place I work. I was part of their HOPE program, which is basically like a first episode psychosis program. And I was very, very fortunate to be in that program. You know, the people I work with, the people who were really there to support me were some of the best I ever met, and it completely changed my life. And, you know, kind of ever since then, I almost feel like it's my duty to try to do whatever I can to really help people get that same support that I was so fortunate enough to get. So like some of the ways I like to go do that besides, you know, of course, like the work itself, is I like to go and I love to talk. Always do it every chance I get. So like I love to give, whether it be through NAMI or systems of care, or even just at like the school, like go to Luzerne County Community College, you know, through their psychology club, I like to go and give really a lot of talks on mental health and recovery to the school. The other thing I'm really passionate about is really like getting people involved in community activities. I'll talk about this every chance I get. One of the biggest things to me was going to the gym, started going lifting weights. That played a crucial role in my recovery process, but it was also, in reality, it was also one of the most difficult things I had to do. And like knowing how difficult that was is what really makes me want to be part of organizations like this, where we can help people really do things like get out there and get out in the community, just because that's where they need the support. So that's where I'm so passionate about going out. People do that.
Oh, that's great. I'm just a little bit curious. I understand that you started the Luzerne County Community College Lifting Club. Is that true?
So I was able to get a bunch of people together to kind of start that. We put paperwork in for it, never went anywhere. So I kind of did it myself. So
Okay.
with the friends who I had with there, we kind of tried to put the word out there to everyone and really get as many people just come into the gym. It was supposed to be a way for people who like want to try it, but maybe they don't really have anyone to do it with, they don't know how to do it. It was really a way for people who are beginners to come in there. And, you know, this was so meaningful to me, maybe how I can help them start their own journey. So I was very proud of like the work I did with that.
That's fantastic. Kyle, I think that's called grassroots advocacy. Thumbs up to you for that. I appreciate it. Now, Kyle just talked to us a little bit about one of his outlets. Rose mentioned hers. We're going to have a surprise for you when I'm done introducing all of the speakers. Rose is going to share something with us. But in the meantime, let me continue introducing the speakers. The next person I'm going to introduce is Darren Eckert. He is a certified peer specialist. Darren.
Hello, everyone. I'm Darren Eckert. I'm 23 years old. I've been in Pennsylvania all my life. I've kind of bounced around, but ended up in Northeast Pennsylvania, and I've been here ever since I was 5 years old. For most of my life, nothing too eventful happened until I was about 17, and I had an episode of psychosis, and I found myself in the HOPE program, just like Kyle. And, you know, he said it all already, but
Darren, what's that HOPE thing you said? What's that?
it stands for helping overcome psychosis early, or helping one psychosis. And it's just a first episode psychosis program where they give you a bunch of services from a certified peer specialist to a therapist and so on.
Great, great. I also, oh, sorry, go ahead. I interrupted, sorry.
But while I was a participant there, I eventually got hired on to work as a certified peer specialist there.
And we're going to talk about certified peer specialists in a little bit, because I personally had some involvement when the certification process was being done, and feel strongly about it, and am excited to know that you all are certified peer specialists. So thank you for mentioning that, Darren, and we will talk about it more. Now, I just want to mention your outlet, Darren. I understand that you are interested in music production and some other things.
Yes, I'll touch on it a little more later, but I love music. I love movies. I love anything that you can just put your heart into and really have people interpret it in their own ways, or however you want to consume it.
Okay. Thank you, Darren. So next, I would like to introduce Ashley Hillard, who is also a certified peer specialist, like I mentioned. Ashley.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ashley Hillard. I have been working with the HOPE program, as it's been mentioned a few times, which is a program that helps individuals overcome their first episode of psychosis. I have been with the program 5 years in March, it'll be. I did begin working with them as a secretary, kind of just doing paperwork and things like that. And when the certified peer specialist position opened, I was a little hesitant at first, but my boss believed in me, I think, and knew I would be a good fit. And I did it, and I'm so glad that I did it, because I wouldn't want to be doing anything else now. As a certified peer specialist, we do have our own lived experience. I've had my own mental health struggles, you could say. Probably started when I was about 14, to hospitalization, and I can relate to the people that I work with because of my own mental health struggles. And I enjoy helping others and seeing their growth, working with them and seeing as they succeed, over time.
That's very interesting, Ashley. Thank you for sharing that with us. And oh dear, I lost my place. I got distracted. I think that we lost Jamal there. He's having some real internet issues today. And I may be called upon to do some covering for him. So I'm going to ask you all to be patient if I'm not as swift as we normally would be in transitioning. Oh, isn't that an interesting word to use, transitioning? And I'm going to introduce the next speaker. Are you ready? I'm now feeling insecure that I will improperly pronounce her last name. Let me try. Fallon Nunemacher, certified peer specialist with Youth Revolution Advisory Board. How did I do, Fallon?
You did good. That's actually a really good pronunciation of that.
Oh, good.
Okay, so my name is Fallon. I usually go by Fallon Nunemacher, but that was an excellent German pronunciation. Great job, Nancy. So I'm Fallon. I'm 24 years old. I'm originally from the Wyoming County area, but I moved to Wilkes-Barre in early 2022. And right after I moved to Wilkes-Barre, I started working at Children's Service Center in the Juvenile Wellness Court. And I got my certified peer specialist. I did the training, I passed the exam, and that was an excellent choice. I never planned on working in mental health. I was going to school for government and pre-law, and then I had a psychosis incident. I had a few really long-term hospitalizations, and then I was living with a friend. I was homeless, and she had children, and then I became connected with HOPE, and from there, I learned what a peer specialist was. I learned about juvenile wellness court, and that kicked off my time in working in mental health. Right now, I work at the Catholic Youth Center, and I'm kind of a floater. I float between early childhood, school age, and the teen drop-in. And that's really what my passions are. I love teaching the young people how to self-advocate for ourselves and helping people identify their goals and break them down into steps. And I know for sure that young people can achieve whatever goal they have as long as they have access to the proper services. And my personal passions are hiking and kayaking, both with my dog. And I love reading mostly about ecology, biology, and earth sciences, so that when I go on my hikes and kayaking, I can forage for plants, rocks, feathers, and things like that. I spend most of my passions are about being outdoors and spending time with my dog and my family.
Thank you, Fallon. I would just like to say, I'm glad that you made the decision to move into the mental health community. There is such a need, especially now, and for people who are qualified, who have lived experience, to get out and be there, whether it's in a professional position, as a volunteer, as an advocate. And we thank you for your decision, Fallon, and wish you all the best in continuing in that community. The next person I'm going to introduce you all to is the amazing John Prater, who is a youth advocate, yes, the advocate, with Youth Revolution. John, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, my name is John Prater. I've lived in Wilkesboro all my life, 18. I currently am a high school senior, going to WBA. I'm also the president of the NAACP Youth Council, as Ms. Rose mentioned. A lot of my hobbies include cooking and using my cooking skills to help the community, help like better aware them of like certain activities we do like through cooking. Yes.
John, now is it true that you just turned 18?
Yeah, I just turned 18 in December.
And have you graduated high school yet?
No, but this June I will be graduating in
Oh, that's
September.
so exciting. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Yes, you're graduating.
Yes.
So we have a teenager who is still in high school on our as one of our speakers today. Just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that. Thank you so much, John, and we look forward to talking to you more. And now I would like to introduce you all to Sonia Price, who is, yes, a certified peer specialist and works in as a psychiatric rehab counselor at Step by Step. Sonia.
Hi, my name is Sonia. I have been involved in the mental health system, the foster care system. When I was born into the system, I had a birth mother who was addicted to drugs. And then I was adopted when I was 3, and then I was kicked out at 16. So I've been involved in almost any placement you could probably imagine. When I turned 18, children and youth allowed me to stay in their care, but I had to go to school and I had to get my own apartment. And ever since that, I've been flourishing. I got my associate's degree. I dropped out of college stupidly when I was 21, but I went back about 2 years ago, and I've been at Step by Step for about 9 years. My goal has always been to be a social worker. I've always wanted to be that since I was a kid. So now I'm making it happen.
That's fantastic. Sonia, can you just tell me a little bit more about Step by Step?
Absolutely, yeah. Step by Step is an agency that is so vital in this community. It services adults and children, but I work on the adult side, and I work with individuals who have mental health struggles and are trying to learn independent living skills to live on their own. So it's a group home setting, but eventually they're going to hopefully go to their own place, and hopefully we teach them skills to do so.
Great, thank you. Okay, Jamal, I think we're ready to introduce Rose. Can we bring that up on the screen? Rose created, wrote this poem for us. Well, not just for us. And it has beautiful artwork, and we wanted you all to be able to see it as she was reading her poem and sharing it with us. Rose.
Yes, thank you. This piece is called She Walks in Between Both Worlds. And it is inspired by the journey of any individual who is kind of just wavering through the options and choices in life. And it's just eloquently put to be similar to experiencing walking between two different worlds of nature. She walks in between both worlds. She's a lioness. And to the left, she sees the desert, dry sanded, cactuses poking, chameleons camouflaged by stingy scorpions. When she looks to the right, she sees the jungle, bursting and blooming green, misty moisture captured under leaves, and above all, the sound. The very essence of her beauty, every different creature who inhabits her soul, singing and chatting their songs. All the while, she doesn't choose between the two sides. She just steps alongside both worlds as she walks in between. Gracefully, she admires both sides, never wanting to be apart or detached from either of the sides as she strides, full of love on the inside, for the beauty and balance of both worlds always moving along and becoming enraptured by their bewitching auras. Can you clap? Yes, and
Thank you,
that
Rose.
was done by me as well.
The
So
artwork,
thank you. Yes,
where did you learn to draw like that?
I've been an artist all my life. I just got a fine arts degree at LCC as well.
Oh my goodness. Rose, you have definitely gone out there and grabbed life. Ah, how impressive. Well, I'm feeling like we just had a great conversation about meeting all of our speakers and learning a little bit more about them. And I love that Rose has got the thumbs up thing going. And we're about ready now to turn it over to Jamal. Jamal is our Q&A maven, and he will keep the conversation going by some questions that we all have. And we will be looking for everyone in the audience to please add any questions that they might have for any one of the speakers. If you can mention which speaker it might be. I know it's hard to remember the names because we can't see them, but just do your best and put them in the Q&A. And Jamal, you're on.
Thank you, Nancy. Just real quick to the audience, if I know there were excuse me, some questions that were put into the Q&A, but I had some computer issues. Technical, you do this long enough, you're bound to have some, right? So it kicked me off and I had to log back on. So if you can put your questions back in the Q&A for me, please, so that I can have them and we can have this conversation with our young people, that would be great. I appreciate it. So we're going to start with Cal. First question for you, Cal, is what services and support were most helpful for you?
So when I was first starting into this transitional age range that we're talking about, I was still in that program I mentioned before, the HOPE program. So I really had a ton of support. I had a lot of people kind of walking me through that transition. And even with that, it was still, it was still very shocking. So like the realization of like all the things that you don't know how to do, you never thought about, or you don't really like know even what they are, how to accomplish it, can be very overwhelming. And like, you can't plan for everything. So like when you're focused on kind of like making it through each day, like when you spend like your childhood like that, a lot of times the skills that you need to really go out and thrive in life, you just don't always have. So that's why I really think it's important for like resources and services in general to really kind of tackle a wider range of issues. So for example, I had a lot of resources helping me start to apply to college, whether it be scholarships, filling out applications, helping me figure out what I can do, all that difficult, complicated stuff. And what ended up being most difficult for me in that whole process was I didn't even feel comfortable going to talk to my guidance counselor, just to even tell them about this, like just to get my schedule set up. So like it's really important, obviously, to have resources and services for those major things as well. But a lot of times it's the smaller stuff that can kind of get to you. So in my opinion, the resources that were most helpful to me were really the ones that built up like your natural supports and really built up that community around you. Like just like put you in place with other people who have been through similar things, that are going through similar struggles, so you can kind of all put your heads together and figure it out. So like just having people that you can say like, hey, you know, I never really been to a guidance counselor. Can you help me like walk me through that a little bit? Like people that you can have conversations like that too. Like that's what was most important to me. So like I said, you can't really plan for everything. So like kind of like what peers do. I said I had peers when I was in the Hope program, but you know, once you're out of that program, you know, you lose the services, you start to turn over 18 or whatever, you kind of lose that support. So I said like trying the services that in that transitional age range that kind of help really like bring that support around me. So even things like even simple things like clubs and groups and stuff like that. And once again, I'll talk about it again, like me going to the gym, that was such a crucial part. I wouldn't have like been able to recover in the way that I could without it. But the thing is, I never would have done that if I didn't have a ton of support around me. And for a lot of people, like I was fortunate, for a lot of people, they don't have that support. So like services that can really like let people do the things that they want to do and just surround you with people to help you through these, to kind of help you through these challenges that you can just talk to and like just figure things out. So to answer your question, the services that were the most helpful was basically community things like clubs and organized like groups, stuff like that. Like anything like that was always what really helped me the most.
Okay. So was it one of your, you know, supports who you found that helped you get into exercising, you know, to help with your mental health? Was that recommendation that came from one of your supports?
So I had like once like the people who I was with in my Hope program, so the people like the peer support specialists, like the BCMs, they really encouraged me to go out there and kind of like start playing basketball. That's how I kind of got my start with this whole thing. And, you know, they helped me practice. They went to my games to watch me play. And from there, I was kind of able to like build up my own supports, like in the community, like on the basketball team, and eventually progress into the gym. But it was those like, it was really the, you know, those people who were helping me with those everyday things that most people don't even think about, that just come natural.
Yeah.
Like the people in that regard, they're the ones who really allowed me to go out and do that.
So it's that step-by-step thing. And I get that part. You know, people always say, you know, this is available or that is available, but how do I get to that? And so that makes perfect sense. Thank you for sharing it.
Get support.
So Darren, you're passionate about the creative arts. You spoke a little bit about that. How have artistic outlets helped you in your mental health recovery?
So how it has helped, it's a little bit of a story. So back when I was 17, like I said earlier, I had an episode of psychosis, and before, kind of during it, while it was ongoing, I really discovered that I wanted to make music and do that with my life. And I remember the episode happening, and I hadn't recorded a single piece of music, but for some reason in my head, I was like, oh, I'm gonna sign a record deal. I'm gonna be the biggest rapper on this planet. And turns out that didn't happen. I just ended up in the hospital. And while I was in the hospital, I was in touch with my girlfriend at the time. And she thought that the music had brought this psychosis out of me. She thought it sparked it. And it was a little difficult finding support, but eventually I told her, I was like, listen, this had nothing to do with it. And I started my journey with creating and producing music. And what happened was I was in high school, and I started to get in touch with this guy named Jake, who showed me that you can make music on your phone. If you have an iPhone, you could use an application called GarageBand. And I was a little hesitant at first. I was worried that people would judge me for making music on my phone. So I then Googled producers who used GarageBand, and one of the names that popped up was Steve Lacy. And I started listening to his music, and I started watching on how he does things. And there was a lot of interviews about how he made this music, and he used a audio interface called the iRig, and you plug in your guitar into your phone, into GarageBand, and you can record everything there. So at that point, I learned how to record my guitar, but I had a real big problem with putting the words there, trying to write lyrics and stuff to go along with these instrumentals. And the way I solved that was I learned about an artist called Courtney Barnett, who has an amazing album called Sometimes I Sit and Think, and Sometimes I Just Sit. And that album really showed me that I can write anything that's on my mind. Like, lyrics to me nowadays are like a journal. They're like a diary. And I put in these songs that I created. I created an album called Perspective, and I wrote that with the idea in mind of this time in my life. I was graduating high school, and I was going through a lot of interesting takes from people saying I was on drugs when this whole psychosis thing happened. And I wrote it all into this album saying that I wasn't on drugs, and I felt obligated to move on with life, and it was just all about me becoming a new person. And then later on down in my life, I had another episode, more of a bipolar type episode, where I was real manic, and I ended up in jail, and I lost my job. And I remember getting out of jail and thinking, wow, like, my life is over. There's nothing that could happen to me. And what happened in this episode was I set a book on fire, and they charged me with arson charges. And I remember thinking, there's no way I could do anything. Like, my life is over. But then through therapy, through the Hope team, through all this positive information coming from my family, I decided to make an album called Setting Books on Fire. And really, that was just me pouring my heart out, and I produced the whole album. And another artistic outlet that has really helped me that I want to mention real quick is my podcast. I host a podcast called High on a Mountain, and really on that podcast, it's not all the time I'm talking about my mental health journey, but there's been times where I just laid it all on the table and told my listeners how I felt about my life. And I got a lot of positive feedback. And ever since, people have told me that I've done a great job with these things, it just makes me feel so good, because not only am I helping myself with my own mental health journey with the music and the podcast, but I'm helping others just how I do in my day job at Hope. And that's how it has helped.
That's awesome. And I think that's a great way to give back. Nancy, you had a question?
Yeah, I was just curious, Darren, if we wanted to hear your album, is there someplace where we could do that?
Yes, I should have mentioned that, but thank you for bringing that up. The artist name I go by is Crime Dog. If you have Apple Music, Spotify, I'm not really on SoundCloud. I have a few projects on there. But if you just type in Crime Dog, I should pop up on any streaming service. I was actually going to have some song clips and stuff like that to show to you guys, but my computer with all my files is currently in the process of getting fixed. But Crime Dog on any streaming service, YouTube, anything. And
Crime Dog, one word or two?
2 words.
Okay.
And then the podcast High on a Mountain should be anywhere. And yeah, seems like people are finding it already.
That's awesome. Cool. Thank
Hey,
you,
it's
Darren.
in the chat for anybody who wants it.
So Fallon, moving on to you. Hello. What do you feel are the priority services that transitional aged youth need to be successful?
Thank you, Jamal. I have a long list. I try to prioritize things. I think the number one important thing that we need to take care of first is people need to know what services are available right now. So if we could come up with a guide or a list of some kind, whether it's paper or through a QR code, I think that's the first place where we need to start. And we could access them through other services. And I just feel like the best way to start that would make transition age youth in our area successful is if they knew what services are available to them. And that includes whatever services are available in the community, but also what they can get from the people in their lives too, like their family, their friends, mentors. I think if we can highlight for people here what we already have and what they already have in their own lives, that would be a good place to start. And moving on, I think the other top need that we need is computers and printers. And when I talk about printers, I'm talking about the ones that can copy and scan, and maybe color printers, and they need to be maintained. There needs to be paper and things like that. So if there was a way that we could create a space where transition age youth could access computers and printers for free, that would be a huge help. And then I think the needs most people think of are employment and education needs. So I think it's important for transition age youth to have help with writing their resumes and practicing for interviews and finding their career pathways. And I think it's also important as far as education goes. I think transition age youth, in high school, they need to know the different pathways to graduation. If you're somebody who's not as strong academically, but you like having a job or helping out in the community, there's other pathways that they can take. And I think it's important because not enough people know about that. And it's important for people who want to get their GED. There are ways that we can give them financial aid and help them prep for that. And also people need to know how to fill out a FAFSA or apply for scholarships, apply for loans if they're going to college. That's something that needs to be taught. Another thing I think transition age youth need to know about is the financial assistance that's available and how to apply to that. They need to know how to use CEO or sites like Penny. They need to know how to apply for Medicaid or SNAP, other financial aid that they need. Disability, leave, unemployment. I think people need to know how to access those things. When I brought up to people CEO or Medicaid, they say, how can I apply for that? And then also they need to know where the available food banks are. And for young parents, they need to know where they can get formula, diapers, wipes, and they need to know how to apply for early learning, resource center, or other financial aid. They need to know how to access childcare. These are skills that from my old job at Children's Service Center with the Wellness Corps, I noticed are things that people could access if they knew how to, but there's no how to.
Mm-hmm.
And then also just money management, and right now, relevant, how to file taxes and fill out tax forms. And then I would also like to talk about healthcare and health insurance. A lot of young people are going without health insurance right now because they don't know how to apply for Medicaid or for self-pay insurance. They don't know how to use Penny. So I think that's something that we need to teach them as well. And then also how to find providers and how to stay with that provider, how to advocate for themselves. If you don't feel like your therapist is good for you, how to find a new therapist and stay in therapy to prevent hospitalizations. And I also think family planning and birth control and STI testing and prevention, they need to be available as well and free to transition age youth. And while I'm talking about making appointments and going to them, transportation is another huge issue that I found working with the youth in this area. Many of the buses that are local stop running before 6 p.m. So we need to come up with ways that young people can access transportation to get them to work, to get them to job interviews, to get them to their appointments so that they can stay doing what they're supposed to be doing. And they should also know where to get driver's ed and how to get their license. And then I think that when we're teaching them driver's ed, we should also teach them about basics of car ownership, what an inspection is, how do you renew your registration, how do you apply for car insurance, how important car insurance is legally. And then finally, a need that I found at my old job was how to access their personal documents. A lot of times young people don't have their birth certificate, their social security card, other ID documents. Maybe they moved from another state, maybe they lost them. People don't know how to do that. They don't know how to go get copies. And I think if we could help them be informed on how to get those copies, and if they have out-of-state fees, if we could try and help them with that, transportation to the DMV, that's another need. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Fallon. That is a very extensive and important list that you just told us about. And I did have a sort of a follow-up question because you said computers and printers available, and I could definitely understand the need for computers, but could you tell me why you think the need for printers is so pressing also?
A lot of times when you're applying for jobs or services, you need to be able to print out forms and fill them out.
Okay.
And also, sometimes you need to make copies of things. Often you need to make copies of things, or you need to scan things to email it. There's a lot of different ways, especially now that so many things have gone online, that you can only do by scanning or sending or copying. So it's not just for people to have a printer, but it's also important for them to be able to make copies, for them to be able to print out, even if they have a small business, maybe they need to print out some logos, or if they're working on things, other projects, they would need printers for that as well.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Jamal, may I
Yes, ma'am.
step in here?
Please do.
Fallon, I just want to clarify something. Are you telling us about needs, and are you also asking us to make donations or anything like that?
I think a good place to start is just for us to assess everything that we already have, so that we know what we have and make that available, and then we can go from there. Donations, I feel like the printers and computers are going to need some donations. I know there's some available, but printers need to be maintained. They're always going to need paper. They're always going to need ink. So
Okay, so if you'd like anyone's help or like to put that out there, if you would provide me with that information, we can put it in the chat for people. And the other thing I'd like to do is, I was very impressed with your list because it's concise and it's obvious why you need each one of these things. If you could send that to me attached to an email or something like that, I would then provide it to everybody in the audience, if that's okay.
thank you. I'll send you a Word document today.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Fallon.
All right. So John, still in high school, you're living in a homeless shelter, is that correct? And I think you are truly, really with everything that you do within the community, the fact that you're graduating this year, you really are a success story. And I want to let you know that. Tell us what the Youth Drop-In Center has meant to you.
The Youth Drop-In Center has been a place of healing and discovery for me. When I was little, or I was about 12 years old, and I started going to the CYC, I was very awkward. I didn't really talk to people. I had no one to talk to. I only really interacted with my family. And at the time when I started going to the CYC, I was homeless. I lived in a shelter right across the street from the CYC. And that's how I really found out about the CYC and what it can offer for me. And through the CYC, I have made so many connections. I have made so much progress in my life through there. I met Miss Rose. She's been a big help to me with finding myself, with being active in the community and understanding the things that we need in the community and in specifically this town of Wilkes-Barre. Stuff like more therapists, stuff like more community centers like the CYC for people to reach out to and to have a place to go to express themselves in ways that they can't at home, which is where I grew up. I really grew up in my house, just with my family, no outside interactions.
Awesome. You've done like so much at such a young age, and you've experienced so much. It's great to see, like Nancy said earlier, that you've grown a spirit to take your experience and use that to give back. That's truly an awesome thing, and I'm proud to know you. And I just met you. Your accomplishments at your age is they really are remarkable, and it warms my heart to see young people doing that, using their experiences to give back and help others. That's truly a awesome thing.
Thank you.
Ashley, so you are now a true mentor and established CPS. What are some essential skills that you've worked on with transitional aged youth?
So over the past few years, I've worked on many things with different individuals, but I'll just name a few. I have taught individuals how to ride the bus by literally getting on the bus with them and going from one place to another, just so they know how to do it, on it by themselves. Sometimes we do it a few times until, they feel comfortable. I've helped individuals with budgeting, like money management. I've gone grocery shopping with them to try to teach them how to, shop in a way that, is smart, it's not spend all their money in one place. And then adding to that, I've cooked with individuals, just teaching them how to cook, teaching them how to cook different things that they don't know how to cook. Another thing I would say that happens quite frequently is being a support for the individuals when they're struggling or they're in crisis. A lot of times we'll see, because we work on the Hope team, which is a team of individuals, and sometimes the participants, they'll reach out to a peer, first. Sometimes it's their first contact when they're struggling. And I think that because of, my past, my experience, and I'm open about it, and we have that bond, we have that same thing in common, it builds our relationship. It makes us, comfortable, and they feel safe to reach out to a peer when they are struggling or having a hard time. I've gone and done volunteer work with individuals that want to do volunteer work, so they're not going and doing it on their own. We've done some food banks, different things like that. And I help individuals, I have helped them to find their own voice, to be an advocate for themselves in situations that they may not know what to do or what to say or how to handle. I think, I just teaching them how to, effectively advocate and talk for themselves has been an important thing, and that does happen often as well. I've enjoyed doing all of these things. I don't think I've named every single thing, but those were some things that I think have been really impactful. And I look forward to continuing to work with individuals and doing new things that I haven't done yet.
That's awesome. I think your position is a crucial one, because I think a lot of people assume, and based on upbringing, things of that nature, that certain life skills people already know, right? You know what I mean?
Like
And
working with both, I've taught people how to use a stove, a toaster oven,
Right.
very simple things that we not take for granted, but we would just think that someone knows how to do it. Or
Mhm.
like a washing machine, we did I went and volunteered with a few individuals at a homeless shelter, and we would teach some of them how to use the washing and drying machines, because they just didn't know how to do it.
Yeah, and it's stuff like that that I think, it's like you said, I think we do take it sort of for granted because we assume that everybody knows how to do these things, and that's just not the case. Like everybody's experience isn't the same. So I think your position is really crucial in that way, and it's great that you using your experience to help people learn some of those life skills. That's awesome. Thank you. So Sonia, your story is a tremendous one. What advice would you give to youth who are aging out of foster care?
Nice. I'm trying to think. I think the one thing, many things that foster care youth lack, but the one thing I can think of mostly is the support. I know 18 is such a tough age for anybody to go into it, being in foster care and then having to leave foster care. I feel like that's a lot to ask an 18-year-old. Advice I give is to take advantage of any services you have to learn about them and make as many community supports as you can. I've always been an advocate for like foster youth because I know how hard it is. I started when I was this area when I was 18. Now I'm 32, and I see the foster youth I was in foster care with because I stayed till I was 21. And I see them at my age now, and we are struggling. There's very little services out there for people over 25. And I get it, we're adults after that age, but I think there still needs to be more out there, more, maybe a support group, maybe some kind of hotline that foster parents give advice to adult youth. I think there has to be more, honestly. And I think when you're in foster care, you're not learning, you're not at the same rate as your peers. You're kind of a little bit behind in this general stuff. You're trying to, at least I was trying to learn how to survive at 18, live on my own, go to college. And that's a lot, that's a lot. So when we turned 21, I turned 21, like age out of care, it was a shock. It was a shock not to have that help. And I think I didn't really start figuring stuff out until my late 20s. So services that could help people, youth that are maybe a little bit older, I think that needs to be out there.
Yeah, I think you make really good points, especially when you say that, just, being in foster care and the experience that you're going through, that you're living through, right? And dealing with some of that stuff, you may be a little bit, delayed in some of, what your peers may be experiencing. So the support, I think, is definitely needed and should be at least offered, for those who might need it. So I think you raise a very valid point. Thank you for that. And last but certainly not least, Rose. So you've been a huge part of the growth and development of many youth in the community. What are some of the successes and challenges of coordinating a community-based youth drop-in center?
Yes, so some of the successes are like John sitting right next to me. Like he was saying, like when he first started, he was shy, introverted, and kind of just learning about himself and the world around him. And now he can eloquently, I'm just so proud of you. I'm so sorry. But I'm so proud of him because he's a perfect example of how important it is to have those community-based spaces for youth to learn and grow. make mistakes and just become better from it and build their strengths. So some of our successes that we have seen are kids coming in with social anxiety and being able to return back to school. Some other successes we've seen are, kids coming in with challenges at home and learning, being able to sit with them and help them figure out how to assess those situations, helping these youth problem solve and come together and, calm down a situation so everybody can talk and then come together with solutions. These are some of the successes that we see in our space, and even more simple successes like just having the space in general is a success because we have kids come in. We never know what their stories are if they decide to share with us or if they decide not. Just being able to have this space for these youth to come in and feel safe and feel comfortable and basically build up their skills and take the passions of the things they love, like John with cooking and some other youth with poetry or art, and being able to expand upon those things are all a part of what makes our program successful. Some of the challenges, on the other hand, would be number one challenge is always getting more hands on deck. It is as beautiful of a program as it is a lot of work to show up for all of these young people the best way you can. And a lot of times, some of the biggest challenges could be kind of acclimating to all the different needs that are present in a program at a moment. So we can have 30 kids one night, and between 1 to 2 or 3 people, sometimes it's challenging to make sure that you reach all of those kids in the night. When I would create activities per se, some wouldn't be interested, and just kind of finding your footing in how to reach each youth individually, but also how to bring them together and teach them about coming together. Those are some of our challenges too. Bringing more mentors into the space can be challenging as well. So those are some of our challenges and those are some of our successes. And yeah.
As far as your challenges are concerned, you say bringing more mentors into that space. Are you looking for a specific age of mentor, peer? How does that work? Community support?
So I really am looking for more peers, people who come with, say, their skills, whatever they're interested in, and say like someone who's interested in basketball. Like I'm always looking for some more people to help train the youth who come to play basketball. Basketball is their coping mechanism. Basketball is their safe space. I'm always looking for some mentors to come and like train our kids for free, like just volunteer an hour. And sometimes it's difficult to find that, but we have a lot of young men in our program, and sometimes as a young woman, it's hard for me to reach them the way a male mentor could. So bringing more male mentors into the space would be very helpful. Absolutely.
Thank you for that. And I think, just in services in general, male presence is lacking. So I definitely feel you on that. Kyle, to go back to you, I wanted to sort of follow up. How can you best describe some of your experiences, personal and assisting others, with finding resources in your transition to adulthood?
I think it was kind of talked about a little bit already, but just the whole concept of like what specific things you need help with, like the things that you take for granted, like some people take for granted. Like the thing that I found that a lot of the people I work with, they need the most help with are those smaller things. Like, like I know Ashley talked a lot about cooking, riding the bus and stuff like that. So a lot of times, like you kind of have to like you really use a lot of like your own experience, like the things that you picked up and the things that you've learned to really help them like go through and do all these things.
And your experience, that's what helps you the most, when finding those things and those supports that helps you get by on doing those things, right?
It helps to really like think back to when you were, like you were struggling with these things. A lot of times I'm helping people with things in this line of work that I've like barely just figured out myself. So you can really like, it's easier for someone like with this experience to kind of go through and just think back to that time when they needed the help, and it really puts me in an empathetic position to really kind of help them as much as possible.
Thank you. Filing. You gave us a very extensive and impressive list, and I was wondering what your thoughts are on things that worked in the community, in your community, and things that might need to be improved.
Thank you, Jamal. I know the number one thing that worked in the community, especially when I was working at Children's Service Center, was the youth drop-in. I think having a space like the youth drop-in, or having a space similar to that for adults and young adults, is important, because that's a space where you gather them all together, and you could have a professional come in, like Rose said, for an hour to teach people about how to do things. We could have somebody come in and teach transition age youth, who is from maybe the county assistance office or something like that, that could teach us how to use those things, or from transportation that could teach them how to use those things. The other big help really was just having peer specialists. Unfortunately, it seems like the only way someone right now can access a peer specialist is by being in a program like Wellness Court that I was working in, or like Hope, somebody who's in services. And a lot of times people who are in services, even though they originally didn't really want to be there, they just kind of they're obligated to be there. I don't see enough peer specialists in place. It seems like young people are not coming into contact with peer specialists. I feel like every young person should be coming into contact with a peer specialist. Maybe we could add them in high school or other situations like that. If they can come into contact with peer specialists, that's somebody who will be able to identify their needs. And once we're able to gather together all of the resources we have for somebody to access, I think that's what's going to make the biggest difference.
That's awesome. And I think you make a great point, because, when you're talking about the field, it's stretched thin right now, with social workers and people of that ilk. I think having peer specialists sort of be that go between, that bridge, to be able to provide that support that somebody might need. I think it would help greatly in what it is that you're describing. So that's a great idea. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Sonia, you work in the field as a social worker now, correct?
Psych rehab. I'm working towards my bachelor's in social work.
Okay. So what advice would you give to those working with older youth in foster care?
That's a good question. I haven't really thought about it. I would say do your research. Maybe there's more services out there that I don't know of, since I left care, it was a while ago. Do your research, make sure to listen. Definitely try to understand where the youth is coming from. I think there's times where foster youth, they don't get listened to as much, and there's definitely a stigma around it. I think opening yourself up to listening really helps. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm going to ask you some questions that have been put in the Q&A section. And we have a lot. We're not going to get through all of it. We have about 15 minutes left in the presentation, but I did want to get to some of these questions. One that I saw that I wanted to ask John Jeannie said that
Okay, Jamal is breaking up there. I'm going to jump in here and take over for him until his.
that it showed true
settles down.
leadership. And
Oh, Jamal, you broke up and we lost you there.
I'm sorry, did y'all not hear me?
No.
I'm sorry.
Okay, and you're doing it again. Let me ask a question and give you a minute. I would like to ask the speaker group more about healthy transitions, because we sent out invitations and invited people to come to this webinar to learn about healthy transitions. So is there someone on the speaker panel who would like to give me a very short synopsis of what healthy transitions is about? And someone else who would maybe like to share what you'd like to accomplish with healthy transitions? Who would like to do that? Hands? Come on, I know. Yeah, Rose, go for it.
I'll go for it. So the Healthy Transition Grant is focused on the ages 16 to 25. And with Youth Revolution being a program, a part of this grant, the main focus of it, it was an idea that came from previous work with this age group through the drop-in center, through when we had YAS, which was the Youth Advocacy Squad, and just questioning the community and finding out what that age group was lacking. And now we have the opportunity with the Healthy Transition Grant to grow some of these ideas, like that list that Fallon created, to help kind of bring everything together and actually implement the things that we saw as important needs for this age group, as well as bolstering up the youth that we have in this age group in our area that are currently going through the needs that we are trying to assess. So right now we're in a phase of still assessing those needs and getting out to different areas in Luzerne and Wyoming counties to question the youth and see what those needs might be. Does anybody want to add from? Anybody?
That was a very good summary.
So yes, so the Healthy Transitions is basically here to help us bolster up our transitional age youth.
Thank you. If there's one thing that you want to accomplish with this grant, can you tell me what that is?
Absolutely. I think with this grant, I would love to see that all the youth that we come into contact with, and also the ones who are going to come after, are impacted in a positive way, that they feel more ready to basically grab onto life and fully take the wheel for themselves. And they are aware of their supports, they are more independent, they are feeling more confident about handling the things in their life that are important for them to handle, and they have the skills necessary to assess their own needs, as well as going out and being able to find ways to get to those goals.
Fabulous, Rose, fabulous. Thank you. Jamal, are you okay? Is your computer okay?
I have no idea.
Okay, keep talking.
We have had a time with tech today. So I was saying that someone heard John present his poem titled "The Chef," and felt that it was an incredibly brave and vulnerable piece. And it showed true leadership in overcoming obstacles. And they wanted to know if you were still writing, and how did you come to learn about that outlet specifically?
Okay, so I don't write a lot. When I do write, I try to put my own to everything that I do. I got into writing poetry as a little bit of a hobby, thanks to Miss Rose and through the CYC. And that's why I think it's very important that we have community places like this to really discover what we like to do, what we can do with the resources available to us.
It's awesome. Thank you for responding to that. I have another question from Corey, and he would like to know, and I think I'm gonna ask this question to the group, I would like you all to try to answer it briefly and as succinctly. And we'll start with Darren. What advice would you give those who have been involved in the system to caseworkers? What would you give? What advice would you give the caseworkers working with youth and young adults who are currently in any kind of system?
What advice would I give them? Maybe I'd probably say, put yourself in their shoes. I don't think you could really help people without knowing what's going on. So maybe like ask a lot of questions, see what they're comfortable with sharing, and then taking that information and just not looking at it in your view and your opinions or your anything. Just try to put their brain in yours and see what helpful things you could come up with.
How about you, Ashley? Any thoughts on that question?
I agree with what everyone has said. Just providing the support, I think, that's most crucial and helpful thing is being that support for them.
Thank you. Anyone else like to add? Does anyone have anything else to add to that question? Or we'll go Sonia, then Fallon, and then Kyle.
The advice I give case managers is, I noticed when I worked on the Hope team and Children's Service Center, a lot of case managers are very work focused, which is what they have to do. They have a caseload of 1 million. But I think it's worth it to take time out and maybe work on those goals specifically, whether it's going out in the community. I think less focus and less, I don't know how to say, just be more personable. That really helps. Yeah.
Thank you. Fallon?
The systems I have most experience with is mental health and also juvenile justice. So my recommendation, especially for someone working in juvenile justice, is to not take behaviors personally and to not see behaviors as defiance and be offended by that either. So if somebody is not engaging in services, that just means, you have to try harder for them, and don't see that as defiance or something that needs to be punished or any way like that. You should be looking at somebody who's in mental health or juvenile justice as somebody that's here to do better and how you can help them do better. So seeing them as somebody who's defiant or any other negative light is only going to hold them back, and it's going to hold you back as a provider. So I think approaching somebody who's in mental health and especially juvenile justice is to just see them as the good part, like of how they really are. And that's somebody who's just out here trying their best. This is a young person that's out here trying to do their best, that sees that they have a future and wants to get there, and they're not exactly sure how. So to just see them as that simply, and what you can do to help them get there is the approach that we should be taking.
Thank you for that. That just resonated with me in a way that yeah, that was very well said, Fallon. Thank you. Kyle.
I think one of the biggest things is to really take the time to know the resources in your community, and then really try to, as much as you possibly can, help the youth that you're working with, try to give those skills off onto them so they can really surround themselves with as much support as possible, so that they feel like they have the ability to do all this stuff themselves and they can become independent.
Thank you. Thank y'all. I wanted to get that question out there because I think with so many people who are in the audience that are, in the field, providers of some sort, they're always looking for ways to better serve the young people that they work with. So I think your perspective will help them
Well, look at that. We just
We're
lost Jamal again.
at 125.
Jamal, we're losing you. We're losing you. May I step in and just and wrap up for everyone? What Jamal was starting
Am
to
I
say.
am I back?
that we've-
Am I back?
You are at the moment. Jamal? No, I'm taking over. Jamal was just saying, we're at 125. We are essentially out of time. I saw Rose put her hand up there, and I think you had one more comment for the providers. Did you want to share that with us?
Yes, I did. I just wanted to say that, just to go off of what Fallon was saying, trauma does play a role in how people are being perceived. So when you do go out there and you're working with your clients who are young folks, just being aware of, you might not know everything that they are going through. So being strength-based when you're working with them is very important. Highlight their strengths. When they're having a moment of weakness, take a moment to pause and help them see that the greatness in them. This is a transitional period for all of them. And our goal is to keep them from falling into the cracks of life. We are here as their buffer zone. So I just wanted to leave that.
Thank you, Rose. I appreciate that. I know that Jamal does too, and I'm so grateful that we had you all here today. I'm so grateful that you felt comfortable enough to share with us and share your stories and tell us all what we needed to hear. That I do my best to keep young people in my life because I don't want to get cut off from what's coming. And it is with great gratitude that we had you here today. And we are all looking forward to hearing what you do with this grant that you got and how you continue with it. I've asked for some feedback, and I'm hearing that there is support to have you come and talk to us some more. I'd like to have you come in and talk to us more about healthy transitions and more specifics of what you hope to accomplish. There was one comment in the chat, and they're just going like fire right now, so I can't even get at it, but I'll get to it later and share it. Somebody who wanted to collaborate with you all. And that just gives me a wonderful feeling, because if we work with one another and support one another, we do better than we do alone. And so I want to make sure that you all get that contact information so you can reach out and help you in ways that we don't know we can right now. And I have put the link for the evaluation in the chat a few times, and you will also be taken to the evaluation. It is important that you complete that, because that's the reason why we get to have these webinars, is from the information that's in those evaluations. And Jamal, are you there? Oh, Jamal.
I think. I don't
Okay,
know.
just say something. Say something.
Thank you all. It was a very informative panel today. I'm excited with the response that we've gotten, and I hope that we can do this again sometime in the near future.
And I would also add that for the comments that are in the chat, what I predicted would happen did happen. People were amazed and people were impressed, and this is not the last they've heard of you. So thank you all. And we're going to stop the recording. And Jamal, anything else?
Nope, that's it. Thank you all.
Thank you.